visit. Whenever you have a chance.
All those that would like to speak tonight,
No, not this time.
sign up on one of two clipboards in the front podium area.
It's karma. I have to go after all this. You and me both, brother.
Those standing in the back, come on up in the front. We have more chairs.
I know Air Express. They put a few more presses. Right, right.
There's still some seats up in the front. There's seats here in the front. Good evening. Welcome to the legislative session of the Cecil County Council for the 2013-04 session. Before we have the Pledge of Allegiance, I'd like to ask everyone to rise and have a moment of silence for two distinguished Cecil County citizens that we lost last week, Judge Donald Cole and former County Commissioner Nelson Bollender. Thank you.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Since we have a lot of new visitors tonight, I'd like to introduce to you the council. To my far left is Vicki Rinkerman, who is our Executive Administrative Assistant. Council member Michael Dunn is to my right and left. Councilwoman Diana Brumo is to my immediate left. To my immediate right is Council member Alan McCarthy. To his right is Councilwoman Joyce Bowlesby, and to my far right, at the far end, is our new member of our team, the council manager, Jim Massey. This is his first meeting. So, the first thing on our agenda tonight is to have a presentation of a proclamation from the council and the executive to the Cecil County Library. Would members of the library board and any representatives of the library please come forward, and Diana Broomall will come, and the county executive, if you'd like to present the proclamation, please.
This is a great spot. Look at all the people that came. A lot of friends in the library. Well, I've been a fan of the library. I was a homeschooling mom, so we came with our laundry baskets to the library. And but since I was elected, I've been so impressed with how much you've done. And just make sure I didn't miss anything. What I love and appreciate about our Cecil County Library is their attitude. Their focus isn't limited to what they do now. They are always looking for new ways to meet the needs of the community, especially in support of education. They agree to promote the Box Pop program, and to date have collected over 3,000 comments, and we have a list on the podium for which products have the box top labels, and we'll scan the list and post on our Facebook page also. So, everybody can participate, bring the box top labels to the library, drop them in the bin when you come in. The libraries are also a great resource for collecting information. I requested information on volunteer fire department recruitment and attainment programs used across the country and was overwhelmed with what the needs have put together. And they also provide small business development resources and assistance with resume development, but their programs are too many to list right now. But I also wanted to point out that the Maryland Chamber of Commerce chose Cecil County Public Library as the winner of their 2012 Nonprofit Partner in Business Award, and it's well deserved. So right now, I'd like to present to you the proclamation. Cecil County Public Library, whereas the Cecil County Public Library system provides educational programs and resources for all ages, starting with our youngest citizens by preparing them for entering school to the elderly in our communities through access to resources, information, and technology. And whereas the dedicated staff at our local libraries strive to reach the youth in our communities through their summer reading program, which fights educational decline during the summer months, and STEM programs that encourage hands-on exploration of science and technology concepts. And whereas our local public libraries contribute to economic development through the extensive services offered through the Small Business Information Center to aspiring and established entrepreneurs. And whereas in 2011, the Cecil County Public Library was awarded the Nonprofit Partner in Business by the Cecil County Chamber of Commerce, and in 2012, the Nonprofit Partner in Business by the Maryland Chamber of Commerce. Now therefore be it hereby resolved that we, Robert J. Hodge, Dr. Alan McCarthy, Joyce Bowlesby, Michael Dunn, and Diana Vermel, the County Council of Cecil County, and Terry Moore, our Cecil County Executive, do hereby acknowledge the valuable resources and opportunities provided through the Cecil County Public Library System, and extend our sincere appreciation to the staff for continuing to engage the citizenry of all ages and in the joy of lifelong learning that helps make Cecil County a great place to live, work, play, and learn. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. Thank you for thinking of us. Thank you so much. Thank you, Council.
Thank you. Our public libraries do a great job, and if you haven't become a member and borrowed books lately, you ought to start tomorrow. For those that are standing in the back, we have some vacant seats in the front. I would encourage you to come and sit down because it's going to be a long night. Right, and we can pull out more. So please don't stand in front of the doors. Please come down and have a seat. The next item on our agenda is a public hearing. The public hearing is spelled out in a law that was known as Senate Bill 236. And this bill required the county to submit a tier maps spelling out our growth areas in our county. Because the state of Maryland has some concerns and some comments about our map, we're required to have a public hearing. What our intentions are is to have our county planning staff and our county executive discuss why they submitted the map they submitted to the Maryland Department of Planning. The Maryland Department of Planning is going to make some comments about our map and what their suggestions are for improving that map. Then the council is going to have the opportunity to make comments and question both parties. And then we're going to open it up to public comment. Please listen carefully so that when you make your comments, you'll understand what we're doing here and why. So I'm going to offer the floor to our county executive, Terry Moore, and first will be our director of planning and zoning, Eric Sandstrom.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the council. As President Hodge has stated, the reason we're here this evening is due to the fact that the state has submitted comments on our tier map that was adopted by County Executive Moore in December and submitted to the state. Just some background on how we got to this point in the process. In the last session, the 2012 legislative session, the state of Maryland passed legislation that required the counties to come up with a tiering designation for land within the counties. That legislation became effective in July of last year. The former Board of County Commissioners began meeting during the summer of 2012 and into the fall of 2012, discussing what should be done with the legislation and how the map should be drafted. There was a great diversity of opinion amongst the former Board of County Commissioners as to what map was most appropriate, and even there was some discussion as to whether or not a map should be submitted at all. Excuse me. The legislation stated that a map had to be submitted by December 31st of last year. Failure to comply with that deadline would have resulted in failure for the county to approve any subdivisions, any major subdivisions outside of the areas presently served by public sewer, which could have a drastic impact on property rights in the county if they chose the option of developing their property. So due to the diversity of opinion on the Board of County Commissioners over the summer and into the fall of 2012, no consensus was able to be reached as to what map was the most appropriate map to adopt and send to the state. As the council is well aware, on December 3rd of 2012, we transitioned from Commissioner form of government to Charter form of government. County Executive Moore, who has had the ability to adopt a tier map administratively, was cognizant of the deadline that was looming less than a month away, and cognizant of the repercussions failure to submit a map would have on the citizens of the county. Accordingly, she administratively adopted the current tier map, which is posted on the county's website, is on the easel to my left, the audience is right, and sent that to the state on December 14th. On December 27th, we received written comments back from the Maryland Department of Planning with their take on our map. The law stated that if the state provided comments on the map, that a public hearing would have to be held with either the Planning Commission or the local legislative body, which is the County Council. And therefore, we have scheduled this hearing before you this evening to hear the comments and review the comments that we have received from the state. With that, I will turn it over to County Executive Terry Moore for further comment.
Thank you, Eric, and I want to thank all of you for being here tonight. Director Sandstrom has just given you an overview of the timeline and the process that Cecil County has gone through the last 8 months regarding the tier map, but I'd like to provide for you some additional insight. If no further action had been taken, Cecil County would not have submitted a tier map at all, and the end result of that would have created significant negative consequences, a loss of property rights, and possible lawsuits against the county. As Director Sandstrom stated, there was a great deal of discussion, much public input, much of which some of you in this room have been submitted to us, and a public hearing on this issue. But no decision was made by the previous Board of Commissioners by the December 31st deadline. But through that long process of discussion and hearing your input, I recognize there existed a number of differences between Cecil County's comprehensive plan, which is our locally drafted and adopted land use blueprint for our future, and what the state envisioned as part of Tier 4. Becoming a charter government on December 3rd allowed the county executive meeting to administratively submit a map. But with only a few weeks left before the December 31st deadline, what it did not allow was a thoughtful and a complete process to submit a tier map that was consistent with our locally drafted and adopted comprehensive plan. I submitted a map with the only land in Tier 4 which was the most restrictive, as land that was already in preservation and also state and federal protected lands. The purpose of doing so was so that we could make sure that whatever tier map Cecil County eventually submitted would undergo a thorough process and a thoughtful analysis. And most importantly, it would be a document that was consistent with what our community has adopted as its comprehensive plan. It was simply not something that could be accomplished before the December 31st deadline. Yes, there will be another version of the tier map. What it will look like and when it will be submitted to the Maryland Department of Planning, I can't tell you right now, except to commit that I will do everything I can to uphold our comprehensive plan and protect the property rights of all of our citizens in Cecil County to the best of my ability. Now I'm going to turn it over to Secretary Rich Hall from the Maryland Department of Planning and the members of his team that are here tonight. And they will be sharing with you MDP's comments on the tier map that was submitted this past December from Cecil County. And then later on, we'll be hearing from any of you that would like to speak.
Yes.
No matter,
Go ahead, but I'd like Mr. Hall to hold up just a minute.
no matter what side of this issue you're on, I know that you will be respectful in your comments, and I'm going to thank you in advance for that. Secretary Hall, or I'm sorry, President Hodge.
I'd like to announce again, we have some chairs up front for those.
There's two sign-up sheets on the podium. If you're going to speak tonight about the tier maps, you should sign up on the one clipboard with tier maps. The other sign-up is for general public comment later on tonight in our general meeting. So if those who would like to speak, please sign up on the clipboard. Okay. Paul?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Can everyone hear us?
Yeah.
Okay, we're back on. Go ahead. I'm sorry for the interruption.
Sure. Thank you, President Hodge, and members of the County Council, and County Executive Moore, and all of you for coming out to this very important issue. We have some brief comments, and before I get into those, my name is Richard Hall, Secretary, Maryland Department of Planning, and to my left is Rich Josephine, he's head of our planning unit, and to his left is David Dahlstrom, and he's our Upper Eastern Shore coordinator representative in our planning unit. So we have the maps, and you all have seen the map that the county submitted, the county executive submitted in December, and we put our comments in, and our comment letter is on our webpage, as it is for other counties where we have commented, just to give you a tiny window to where the rest of the state is. And there's a report that the General Assembly required my agency to submit on February 1st on the status of implementation. So if you care to, you can get that off of our webpage and see in detail where the whole state is. But in a nutshell, half the counties in the state submitted tier maps by the end of the calendar year. Submitting a tier map is an option. Not submitting a tier map by the end of the calendar year, I believe, as the executive mentioned, means that you go into the mode of not having any major subdivisions on septic systems. Half the counties did submit a map, like I said, half did not, for probably a host of reasons, and at any one time they can speak for themselves, certainly, but in talking to a number of folks, including county, some are waiting to see what happens during the General Assembly session, see if anything changes in the last year's legislation. So they're waiting. If I had to bet, I don't think anything's going to change. There's some people that want to strengthen the act, some people want to weaken it, some people want to delay the implementation. But my guess is that there won't be any change in the legislation this session. But we're still about halfway through, so we'll see. Other counties have a lot of lots already on the ground that are unbuilt that for septic systems, and probably will be for a long time. In addition to that, a lot of counties have a lot of developments, septic developments going through the development review pipeline. Certainly, while Parts of Maryland are faster growing than others. Not many have grown a whole lot during the recent recession. We're seeing a slight uptick, but there's not been a lot of development pressure. I think we can all recognize that. So that's the second reason. There's not been a lot of demand currently for growth overall and on septic systems. The other one is some counties, either their current requirements are pretty close to what the Act requires, or they're just not concerned currently enough about the issue to establish the tier system, because they're not concerned about getting additional major subdivisions for septic systems. So that's one nutshell on where the rest of the state is that did not submit a map. For those that did, like I said, 12 did. We're going to couple coming in very soon we're looking at. But for the 12 that came in, there's 3 that we had negative comments on. One here in Cecil, one for a small part of Allegheny County, a single project of interest, and then the other one, Frederick County. In the case of Frederick County, just last week, I sat down with the county commission president, and we're hopeful we'll be able to work out the issues in that county. All the other counties, whether it's all the way down to Somerset County, Maryland, Kent County to your south, Baltimore County, Harford County, Garrett County, all the way to the west, we're able to work out the map that they came up with, a rough draft that we use as sort of general guidance and comment purposes, and come to an agreement, and it shows as green on the map, on our overall statewide map, meaning we're okay, we're fine with their map. So I'm very excited that County Executive Terry Moore is wearing green tonight, so I'm very hopeful that we can work together and come up with a map that we can agree on, and that is truly what I want to do. We don't enjoy having to get in negative comments with any of the county governments in the state on anything, and certainly not something as tough of an issue as this is. And I also want to make clear for the counties that we are okay with their maps. Our role as a state agency is to take laws that General Assembly passes and work with the stakeholders, local governments, others, to implement those laws that they pertain to my agency. So we went into that with what the law says, did some back and forth maps with those counties. In the end, while several of those counties may not have ended up with the map in some of those counties that we would have started with from our perspective, we felt that we'd come together close enough, and that their map met the criteria in the law within reason. So, we do feel that, we're able to work with counties and come up with something reasonable. And again, we're hopeful, optimistic that we can do that here in Cecil County. I have talked to county executive previously, and we think that over time we'll be able to come up with something in that arena. So what are issues with the map submitted? I think even the executive mentioned that, and partly in the context of the change in county government form, and that's a very difficult, but I think important effort that the county went through, going from a county commissioner form of government to a county executive form. And I think that'll probably serve you all well in the long run as citizens of the county. There's a whole bunch of logistical efforts, and my hat goes off to the executive and to the county council dealing with that and maintaining the county's business throughout that significant transition. So, as she indicated, County Executive Moore did say she grabbed a map, put forward one of the maps, adopted one of the maps that had the least impact on the county. So, from our perspective, what that does is it means that the map that the county adopted, the county executive adopted, which the county executives in charter form counties, county executives can put forth the map. That's generally the way other county executives, charter form counties put forward their maps. It's a map where it means that the legislation really has little or no effect in the county. So areas that are clearly called out in the law to be in Tier 4, and that's where the rub is with this legislation. municipalities and the tier one and tier 2, generally not an issue across the state. It's really what's in tier 3 versus tier 4. And I think most of you probably know this, but tier 4 is where you cannot have any major subdivisions on septic systems. Tier 3 are areas where you can have major subdivisions on septic systems. And the tier 4 areas to be in tier 4 are very clearly laid out in the state law. Those are areas that are planned and zoned for agriculture, resource protection, habitat protection areas, rural legacy areas, priority preservation areas as part of the ag preservation program, and several others are called out. Basically your rural areas. Also areas dominated by agriculture and forest land. Those are tier 4 areas. And when we went through the map, there were significant parts of the county that meet this criteria that were put in tier 3. So, it's really not a ton more to say about this other than that. We want to work again with the county, other stakeholders to come up with a map that we hope both sides can agree on. We've been meeting with local governments since the legislation passed last April. I'm sure that we will continue to do that. And with that, that's really what I wanted to communicate with you all tonight.
Thank you. All right. The council has the opportunity to ask the county executive or the Maryland Department of Planning any questions or make any comments that they choose to make at this time. Is there anyone who'd like to speak up?
Quick question.
Councilman Dunn?
Sure. I did receive some constituent comments on this topic from those not able to be here tonight via email. I assume Director Sundstrom, can I just forward those to you? Or? Certainly.
Councilwoman Brumell, do you have any thoughts, comments, or questions?
Well, Mr. Hall, while you're here, I'm just going to, I remember having that meeting at Donaldson Brown, and you assured us that you weren't going to usurp our local planning authority. And I can't help but feel that that's exactly what has happened here. And we've been through 2 downzonings with our farmers, and it's a very sensitive balance between preserving the equity and downzoning the property. And it's supposed to be a sustainable growth and ag preservation act, and this could very well endanger the ongoing ag operations in our county if they don't have the revenue to take from the land to continue their operations. And I felt like we really made some great strides in addressing our sprawl issue with our TDR program and the downzoning. And I think Cecil County is unique. And the tier plan is not a process that one size fits all. We're very unique that we have 2 preservation or conservation districts that have 2 different zoning densities. And the Piedmont, smaller farms, more fertile soil, south, larger farms. And then we get into the issue. Cecil County just happened to have the Conowingo Dam in their county, one of the biggest sources of pollution, really, to the Susquehanna and the Chesapeake Bay. And I hear you saying we can't revisit. We're not going to. I want what Governor O'Malley says he wants. He wants to clean the bay. We're not going to do it if we don't address the dam. And I want our farmers to continue farming, but this could endanger their operations. And I just hope that we can just continue the conversation.
Councilwoman Bowlesby, do you have any thoughts or comments?
I just have one question. The map that I saw from the state, the original map, was very, very green. Do you have a percentage of the land in Cecil County that was in Tier 4?
Councilwoman, on our map, first thing, our map is a rough approximation that we start the conversation with the county. So, and we've done that with every county thing. This is what we think, let's talk back and forth. So I want to make that point clear. As far as what percent of the county was in green on our rough draft staff map,
64 or 69%, if I'm not.
It was some significant amounts.
Yeah, it was. Okay, thank you.
Councilman McCarthy, do you have any comments or questions?
Could you tell the citizens here the primary goals and the objectives and the necessary reasons for Senate Bill 236, the motivating causes?
Sure. Water quality and land preservation in light of growth, and at the same time, setting up a tier system that addressed, perhaps not perfectly, but addressed the one size doesn't fit all issue. What I mean by that is that in the 2011 session of the General Assembly, there was a bill that just simply said, it's a much simpler bill, no major subdivisions on septic systems. So that means everyone can have a minor subdivision on a septic system outside the sewered area. And so that bill went to summer study, as they say, and there was a task force formed and came up with this tier system. So what that does is it applies the bill in a way that builds on what local governments have already planned and zoned, whether it's for sewer growth areas, whether it's for areas for growth but on septic systems, that's the tier 3, or if it's areas for agricultural and forest land that are already called out for such in local governments' comprehensive plans and their zoning. So that's the purpose of that tier system. So at its core, it's land preservation for agribusiness, for resource protection, and for water quality.
And this would all go back to the total daily maximum loads, correct?
That's a part of it, the water quality part, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Just for the public's information, it's my understanding that any tier map that's submitted to your department is not fixed and permanent, set in concrete, that we, the county, can revise that map at any time.
That's correct. It's meant to evolve just like your local zoning and comp plan maps and policies evolve as well.
Okay. I'm going to open it up to the public comment. We do have sign-up sheets. We have the first few pages up front. I would ask that the public, when you're called to come forward to the podium, state your name and where you're from, and give us your comments. We'd like you to keep it to less than 5 minutes each, or we'll be here till 4 o'clock in the morning. Also, if you agree with the previous speaker, you don't have to repeat and be repetitive on the same issue over and over again. So feel free to say, I agree with the gentleman ahead of me, or two people ahead of you, or if you can remember their name, just mention their name, so that we'll get the message if you just indicate that you agree with someone else that's previously spoken. Now, I know there's a diverse opinion about this subject matter, so we would like you to be civil and respectful. Please make your comments directed to the council. Do not make your comments to another speaker. Do not make your comments to the Maryland Department of Planning. Please speak to the council about anything about tier maps. We're here to have a public meeting on tier maps. If you have other comments about other subject matter, that will be later on tonight during our regular scheduled meeting. So the first speaker tonight will be
Chip McLeod from the Clean Chesapeake Coalition.
I do have those 3 handouts. I wanted to make sure everybody had before we begin, if that's okay, Mr. President.
Go ahead.
Okay. Members of the council, my name is Chip McLeod. I'm an attorney from Chestertown, and I'm here representing the Clean Chesapeake Coalition. The Clean Chesapeake Coalition is a growing coalition presently comprised of 7 counties, 7 Maryland counties, and I will name them: Kent County, Cecil County, Dorchester County, Caroline County, Allegheny County, Frederick County, and Carroll County. I've given you three handouts, and they're really three pictures, and because a picture is worth 1,000 words, I think I can keep my remarks brief. But let me just make a few comments for introduction purposes. I am not here to speak about the legality of Senate Bill 236. I'm not here to talk about property rights. I'm not here to talk about whether Senate Bill 236 is a usurpation of local autonomy when it comes to land use. What I'm here to talk about is really the public policy perspective of this legislation, and really to give you generally some perspective about the policies that are driving the cleanup of the Chesapeake Bay and how septics fall in that. And I want to start by reading a quote from the pollution diet itself. Everybody, if you keep in mind that in December 2010, it was the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency that established the total maximum daily load, the TMDL, for the Chesapeake Bay. This is the pollution diet that since 2010, the state of Maryland has been aggressively implementing and pushing down onto local governments. Keep in mind all the legislation, all the regulations, all the debate that is occurring around the state of Maryland, all related to meeting the Chesapeake Bay TMDL, that pollution diet. The septics bill, this legislation, was driven in part by the state of Maryland meeting the TMDL. But I want to quote from the TMDL document itself. This is from the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency with respect to septics. Septic systems have the potential to deliver nitrogen and phosphorus to surface waters directly because of system failure and malfunction. Functioning systems do not contribute nitrogen and phosphorus loads to surface waters directly. That is in section 464 of the Bay TMDL from the EPA. And I just want to restate, functioning systems do not contribute nitrogen to surface waters directly. Now I've given you some pictures. The very first one, I know familiar to some of you because you're members of the coalition. This photograph was taken a few days after Tropical Storm Lee, and it shows a sediment plume emanating from the Conowingo Dam to the mouth of the Potomac River, about 100 miles. Now on the back of this picture, if you all will note, I have some information that I want to just mention. This picture, again, taken shortly after Tropical Storm Lee, last September 2011, according to the U.S. Geological Survey, this storm event loaded 42,000 tons of nitrogen into the Chesapeake Bay. 42,000 tons. If you want to hear it in pounds, it's over 140 million pounds of nitrogen. According to the Maryland Department of Planning report that was issued to the Maryland General Assembly in early February of this year, reporting on the progress with the implementation of Senate Bill 236, that report talks about the impact or the reduction of nitrogen going into the bay. And let me just quote from the report. The bill will prevent 50,000 new septic systems and stop as much as 1.1 million pounds of nitrogen from polluting the bay by 2035. So 1.1 million pounds to the year 2035. Simple math, that's about 50,000 pounds per year that the septics bill is going to prevent. 50,000 pounds of nitrogen that the septics bill will purportedly prevent.
Mr. McLeod, would you wrap up, please?
Yes. The other photograph I just want to bring to your attention is so everybody understands this isn't an infrequent, rare event, these large storm events and the pollution to the bay. There's a photograph showing the same Chesapeake Bay, our beloved bay, on February 9th of this year, with a sediment plume reaching as far down as the Bay Bridge. There was no hurricane or tropical storm February 9th, 2013. The other chart, or picture, which is a chart I want to bring to your attention. This isn't a chart that you're going to find from environmental groups or the state, but this is a summary of nitrogen loads to the Chesapeake Bay from various sources. And I'll read these numbers and then I'll sit down, Mr. President. Annual nitrogen loads to the Chesapeake Bay from all sources, almost 340 million pounds a year. From the Susquehanna River, 131 million pounds a year. From septic, 8 million pounds a year. From stormwater, the jurisdictions that have to do MS4, stormwater, retrofits, 7 million pounds a year. And then wastewater treatment plants. The purpose of this chart is to highlight where energy and resources are being spent to save the Chesapeake Bay. And I hope this gives you some perspective of how much time and energy is spent on very small problems. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next speaker will be
Ed Carnes from ARCA.
Do I need to repeat my name?
yes, sir.
My name is Ed Cairns, and I've lived in the county for 50 years on Jackson Hall School Road. My talk covers some of the many ways that compliance with Maryland's Sustainable Growth and Agricultural Preservation Act of 2012 is good for Cecil County. I'll hereafter refer to the act as Senate Bill 236. That's faster. Let's consider the 2010 Cecil County Comprehensive Plan. It derived from the efforts of an oversight committee of 41 county citizens representing all the different interests in our county. They were organized into 7 subcommittees who, with professional consultant help, produced in 2 years this document of guidelines for the plan. As you can see, it's a rather hefty document. Each of the 41 citizens served on 2 of the 7 subcommittees. I was one of the 41 and co-chaired the Transportation Subcommittee. Our subcommittee considered many references in arriving at our recommendations. Similar efforts went into the other subcommittee's recommendations. The point of this is that the resulting comp plan shown here was no half-blown product, but was competently produced by a broad spectrum of county residents. Now let's look at Senate Bill 236. Basically, it requires each county to divide its land into 4 tiers with increasing restrictions on residential development from Tier 1 to 4. It's best explained in the implementation guide produced by Maryland Department of Planning. Compliance with Senate Bill 236 is consistent with the comp plan. Time limits my detailing all the areas where they agree, but here are just a couple of the major ones. The goals and objectives of the comp plan lists, and I quote, encourage the conservation of agricultural and forested lands, encourage sustainable agribusiness and other natural resource-based industries. What does Senate Bill 236 say about this? The very title of the act includes agricultural preservation. And its executive summary states, and I quote, the goal of the law is to limit impacts of large subdivisions on our farm and forest land. On page 10, under intent of Tier 4, it prohibits major residential subdivisions and puts all agricultural and forest lands in Tier 4, the most restrictive on residential development. 2, Throughout the comp plan, it promotes concentrating development in the growth corridor and discouraging it outside of this area. It puts development where services can